I still remember the silence that followed. Not the usual Hollywood silence, filled with cameras clicking and executives whispering, but the kind of silence that swallows entire rooms, entire hearts, entire dreams. It was 1958, and I was watching two titans of their era dance around something that could have changed everything. Frank Sinatra, the man who could make grown women weep with a single note, was about to face the only audience that truly mattered. And Sophia Loren, the Italian goddess who had conquered Hollywood without losing her soul, was about to make a choice that would haunt one of them forever. Picture this, Frank had just finished another sold-out show at the Sands in Vegas. But instead of celebrating with his Rat Pack, he was on a plane to Rome. Again. The third time that month. His friends thought he'd lost his mind, but I knew better. I'd seen the way he looked at her, like she was both his salvation and his destruction. Sophia was filming at Sinatra Studios, and Frank appeared on set like he belonged there. The crew whispered as he watched her work, his usually confident swagger replaced by something vulnerable, almost boyish. He'd done this before, the jewelry, the flowers, the impromptu serenades in Roman restaurants where he'd rent out entire sections just to sing to her alone. But this time was different. I could feel it in the air, thick with anticipation and desperation. Carlo Ponti was there too, of course. The producer who had discovered Sophia when she was just a teenager, who had guided her career, who had been her anchor in the chaotic world of international stardom. Older, sophisticated, married, but separated and fighting for divorce. Their relationship was complicated, controversial, but undeniably deep. Frank waited until the cameras stopped rolling. The crew dispersed, leaving just the three of them in that cavernous soundstage. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here was Frank Sinatra, who commanded attention in every room he entered, waiting for his moment like a nervous schoolboy. "Sophia," he said, his voice carrying none of its usual bravado. She turned, still radiant from the shoot, her dark eyes curious but guarded. Carlo stepped closer, sensing something in the air. Frank looked directly at her, ignoring everyone else. "Let's stop pretending," he said, the words cutting through the studio air like a blade. "Marry me." No grand gesture. No orchestra. No spotlight. Just Frank Sinatra, perhaps for the first time in his life, completely stripped of performance, laying his heart bare in the most vulnerable way possible. The silence that followed felt eternal. Sophia's eyes widened, not with joy, not with surprise, but with something that looked dangerously close to pain. I watched her face cycle through emotions, shock, tenderness, conflict, and finally, resignation. She glanced at Carlo, whose face had gone ashen, then back at Frank. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Instead, she did something that would echo through Hollywood gossip for decades. She simply looked at him, really looked at him, as if memorizing every detail of his face, and then she turned and walked away. Her heels clicked against the concrete floor of the soundstage, each step like a nail in a coffin Frank didn't even know he was building for himself. Frank stood there, frozen, watching the woman he loved disappear into the shadows between the film equipment. Carlo followed her, leaving Frank alone under the harsh studio lights. I later learned what Sophia told a close friend years afterward. Frank was everything: passion, fire, music, magic. He was America itself, wrapped in a perfect voice and an impossible dream. But Carlo was my foundation. He found me when I was nothing, believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Frank was a hurricane that could have swept me away completely. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no to your own heart. Frank never spoke publicly about that day. He dated other women, married again, continued to rule the entertainment world. But those who knew him said something changed after Rome. There was a new melancholy in his voice, a depth of loss that made his later ballads even more heartbreaking. Sophia married Carlo in 1966, after his divorce was finally recognized. They remained together until his death in 2007, a love story that spanned over 5 decades, built not on hurricane passion but on unshakable foundation. And Frank? He carried that silence with him forever. Sometimes the most profound moments in our lives aren't marked by words or music, but by the devastating beauty of what never was. Subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more incredible stories to come.